Hello friends, my name is Jansi Sangani and today we will continue our story. So let's restart. I visited the research center again and soon after the day of the opening, the great botanist, mindful of his promise, took me to his quiet laboratory. I will attach the crystallograph to this front. The magnifications is tremendous. Is if snails crave were angled in the same proportions, the creatures would appear to be traveling like an express train. My gaze was fixed eagerly on the screen, which reflected the magnified French shadow. Minute life movements were now clearly participated. The plant was growing very slowly before my fascinated eyes. The scientist touched the tip of the fern with a small metal bar. The developing pantomime came to an abrupt halt, resuming its eloquent rhythms as soon as the road was with the drawn. You saw how any slight outside inference in detrimental to the sensitive issues. Bose remarked, "Watch, I will now administer color from and then given an antidote. The effect of the color from discontinued all growth. The antidote was revivifying. The evolutionary gesture on the screen held me more apply and more rapidly than a movie plot. My company thrust a sharp instrument through a part of the fan. Pain was indicated by a spasmodic falters when he passed a razor partly through the steam. The shadow was violently against the stilled itself with the final punctuations of the death. By first chloroforming a hug tree, achieve a successful transplantations. Usually, such a monorage of the forest die very quickly. After being moved, Jagdish smiled happily as he recounted the life-saving maneuvers. A graph of my delicate appearance have proved that the trees pose a circulatory system. Their sap movements correspond to the blood pressures of animal bodies. The ascent of sap is not explicable on the mechanical grounds ordinary advanced such as capable attraction as the phenomenon has been revealed through the Keres as the activity of living cells. Parasitic waves issue from a cylindrical tube which extend down a tree and serves as an actual heart. The more deeply we perceive, the more striking becomes the evident that the uniform plan links every form in manifold nature. The great scientist pointed to another Bose instrument. I will show you experiments on a piece of tin. The life force in metal responds adversely or beneficially to to stimuli. Ink marking will register the various reactions. Deeply engrossed, I watched the graph with the recorded the characteristic wave of atomic structure. When the professor applied color from to the tin, the vibratory readings stopped. They recommended as the metal slowly regains its normal state, my company dispense a poisonous chemical simultaneously with the quivering end of the tin. The needle dramatically brought on the chart a death noise. The scientists said Bose instruments have demonstrated that metal, such as the steel used in scissors and machinery, are subject to fatigue and regain efficiency by periodic rest. The life plus in metals is seriously harmed or even extinguished through the application or electric currents or heavy pressure. I looked around the room at the numerous inventions equivalent testimony of a tri- um, tireless ingenuity. Sir, it is lamentable that mass agriculture development is not speeded by fuller use of your marvelous mechanism. Would it not be easily possible to employ some of them in quick laboratory experiments to indicate the influence of various types of fertilizers on plant growth? You are right. Countless use of Bose instrument will be made by generations. The scientist seldom knows knows contemporaries reward. It is enough to possess the joy of creative service with experiences of unreceived gratitude of the identifiable seg. I took my leave. Can the astonishing fertility of his genius ever be exhaled? I thought. No diminution came with the years. Inventing an intricate instrument, the recent choreograph, and Bose then pursued extensive research on innumerable Indian planets, and an enormous, uh, unsuspected, uh, unsuspected paraphernalia of useful drugs was revealed. The cardiograph is constructed with an unerring accuracy by which a 100th part, which 100 part of the second is indicated on a graph resonant. Records measure infections, lesions in plant, animal, and human structure. The great botanist predecided that the use of his cardiograph will lead to vivisection on planet instead of animals. Side by side recordings of the effects of a medicine given simultaneously to a plant and an animal have shown astounding uh, unanimity in result. He pointed out everything in man has been foreshadowed in the plant. Experimentations on vaginations will contribute to the lessening of animal and human suffering. Years later, Bose Poiner plant findings were substituted by other scientists. Work done in 1938 at Columbia University was reported by the New York Times as follows. It has been determined within the past few years that when the nerves transmit message between the brain and other parts of the body, tiny electrical impulses are being generated. These influences have been measured by delicate galvanometers and magnification and magnified millions of times by modern amplifying apparatus. Until now, to satisfactory method had been found to study the passage of the impulses along the nerve fibers in living animals or men because of the great speed with which these impulses travel. DRS, KS, Cole, and HJ Curtis reported having discovered that the long single cell of the freshwater planet Nitilia, used frequently in goldfish bowl, are virtually identical with those of single nerve fibers. Furthermore, they found that Nutella fibers, on being excited, propagate electrical waves that are similar in every way, expected validatory to those of the nerve fibers in animal and man. The electrical nerve influence in the plant were found to be much slower than those in animals. This discovery was therefore seized upon by the Columbia workers as a means for talking slow motion pictures of the passage of the electrical influences is nervous. The Nutella plant thus may become a sort of Rosetta Stone for dis- disfering the closely guarded secrets close to the very borderland of mind and matter. The poet Rabindranath Tagore was a, was a stalwart friend of his India's um, idealistic scientist. To him, the sweet Bengali singer addressed the following lines: O hermit, call thou in enthusiastic words. Of that old hymn called Sama, rise awake. Call to the man who boosted his shattered lore from vain Benedict Virgilian's profitless. Call to that foolish brigade to come forth out on the face of nature, this broad earth. Send forth this call unto this collar band. Send forth this call unto this collar band. Together round they sacrifice or fire. Let them all gather, so may our India, our ancestors, our ancient land unto herself return. Oh, once again return to steadfast work, to duty and devotions to her trance. Of earnest meditation, let her sit once more unreflected, uh, greedless, streetfless, and pure. Or once again upon her lofty seat and platform teaches and teachers of all lands. Uh, This is translated by Manmohan Ghosh from the Bengali of Rabindranath Tagore in the Vishwam in the Vishwabharati Quality, Sanskritya, India. The blissful devotee and his consumed romance. Little sir, please be seated. I am talking to my divine mother. Silently, I had entered the room in the great away. The energetic appearance of my master Mahashias fairly dazzled me with with silky white beard and large lustrous eyes. He seemed an incarnation of purity. His upspread chin and folded hands appreciated me that my first visit had distributed him in the midst of his devotions. His simple words of greeting produced the most violent effect my nature had so far experienced. The bitterness of separations at my mother's death, I had thought the measures of all anguishes. Now, consciousness of separations from my divine mother was an indescribable torture of the spirit. I fell moaning to the floor. Little sir, quiet yourself. The sant was sympathetically distressed. Abandoned in some ocean desolations, I cultured his feet as the sole raft of my rescues. Holy Sir, thin intersections, ask Divine Mother if I find any favor in her sight. The scared promise of intercessions is one not easily dissolved. The master was constrained to silence. Beyond reach of doubt, I was convinced the master Mahashias was in intimate converse with the Universal Mother. It was deep humiliation to realize that my eyes were blind to to her, who even at this moment was predictable to the faultless gaze of the sun. Shamelessly gripping his fate, deaf to his gentle remonstrations, I besought him again and again for his investing grace. I will make your plough to be to the behold. The master's capitulations came with a slow, composition's smile. Uh, what power in those few words that my being should know, realize from its stormy exile. Sir, remember you are plagued. I shall return soon for her message, joyful anti-captions rang in my voice, which only a moment ago had been sobbing, choked with sorrow. Descending the long straightway, I was overwhelmed by memories. This house in Calcutta at 15 Amherst Street. Now the residence of Master Mahashiyas had once been my family home. The scenes of my mother's death. Here my human heart had broken for the vanished mother, and her today my spirit and had been as a thought certified by the abyssins of the divine mother. Heaved walls, silent witness of my grievous hurts and final healing. My steps were eager as I returned to my home, seeking the sculptures of my small attic. I remained in meditation until 10 o'clock. The darkness of the warm India night was suddenly lit with a wondrous vision. He held in splendor. The Divine Mother stood before me. Her face, treadily smiling, was beauty itself. Always have I loved thee. Ever shall I love thee. The celestial tones still reigning in the air. She disappeared. The sun on the following morning had hardly risen to an angle or of decorum when I paid my second visit to Master Mahashiyas. Climbing the staircase in the house of a poignant memories, I reached his fourth floor room. The knob of the closed door was wrapped around with a cloth. A hint. I felt that the sun desired privacy. As I stood irresolutely on the landing, the door was opened by the master's welcoming hand. I knelt at his holy feet. In a playful mode, I wore a solemn mask over my face, hiding the divine elections. Sir, I have come. Very early, I confess, for your message. Did the beloved mother say anything about me? Miss, uh, Miss Achieve's little stir. Not another remark would he make. Appreciably, my assumed gravity was unimpressive. Why so? Why so mysterious? So evasive? Do Sant never speak plainly? Perhaps I was a little provoked. Must you taste me? His calm eyes were full of understanding. Might I add a single word this morning to the assurance you received that last night at 10 o'clock from the beautiful mother herself? Master Mahasias possessed control over the floodgates of my soul. Again I plunked prostrate at his feet, but this time my tears welled from abysses and not a pain past bearing. Thank you, thank you that your devotions did not touch the infinite mercy, the motherhood of God, which you have worshipped in forms both human and divine. Cloud never failed to answer your foreskin cry. Who was this simple son whose least request to the universal spirit met with sweet accuracies? His role in the world was humble as befitted the greatest man of humility. I never knew in this Amherst Street house, Master Mahasayas conducted a small high school for boys. No words or chastisement passed his lips. No rule and failure maintained his discipline. Higher mathematicals indeed was a tough in this modest classroom and a chemistry of love absence from the textbooks. He spared his wisdom by spiritual content rather than by imperimental precept, consumed by an unsophisticated passion for the Divine Mother. The Sant no more demanded the outward form of the respect than a child. I am not your Guru. He shall come a little later, he told me. Through his guidance, Your experiences of the divine in terms of love and devotion will be translated into his terms of fathomless wisdom. Every late afternoon, I betook myself to Amherst Street. I sought Master Marcia's divine cup, so full that its drop daily overflowed on my being. Never before had I bowed in I bowed in Uttar reverence now. I felt is an immeasurable privileges even to tread the same ground that the master Marcia's footsteps sanctified. Sir, please wear this champak grand land I have festooned specially for you. I arrived one evening holding my chain of the flowers, but shyly he drove away, repeatedly refusing the honor receiving my heart, he finally smiled consent. Since we are both devotees of the mother, you may put the garland on this bodily temple as offering to her who dwells within. His vast nature lacked space in which any ego, egotistical considerations could gain foothold. Let us go tomorrow or to Dakeshneshwar to the temple of Kali, forever hallowed by my Guru. The Sant was a discipline of a characteristic Jesus-like master, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa. The four-mile journey on the following morning was taken by boat on the Gangas. We entered, we entered the nine-domed temple of Kali, where the figures of the divine mothers and Shiva rest on a burnished silver lotus. Its thousand petals meticulously chilled. Master Marcias beamed in unattachment. He was engaged in his executable romance with the behold. As the as the chanted her name, my intrepited heart seems started, like the lotus into a thousand bees. We strolled later through the scared precipices, halting in a termistic grove. The mana characteristic executed by this tree was symbolic of the heavenly food Master Marcias was bestowing. His diving invocations continued. I sat rightly motionless on the grass amid the pink fairly tamarisk flowers temporarily absent from the body. I sorted in a supernal visit. This was the first of many pilgrimages of to Dakeshneshwar with the holy teacher. From him, I learned the sweetness of God in the aspect of mother or diving mercy. The childlike sant founded little appeal in the father aspect or diving justice, stern exacting mathematical judgment was aligned to his gentle nature. He can serve as an earthly prototype for the very angles of the heaven. I, I thought fondly, watching him one day at his prayers without the breath of censure or criticism. He surveyed the world with eyes long familiar with the primal purity. His body, mind, speech, and actions were effortlessly harmonized with his soul's simplicity. My master told me so. Shrinking from personal aspirations, the Sant usually ended his sage counsel with this tribute. So deep was his sense of identity with Sri Ramakrishna that Master Marcias no longer considered his thoughts to be his own. Hand in hand, the Sant and I walked one evening on the block of his school. My joy was dimmed by the arrival of the concedient acquaintance. He bonded us with a lengthy discourage. I see, this man doesn't please you. The Sant whispered to me, was unheard by the egoistic, spellbounded by his own Mongolian. I have spoke to Divine Mother about it. She realized. How said predicament. As soon as we get to younger Red House, she has promised to remind him of more urgent business. My eyes were glued to the sight of salvation's reaching its red gate. The man unaccountably turned and departed, neither finishing his sentence nor saying goodbye. Peace descended on the exhilarated air. Another day found me walking alone near the Govara railway station. I stood for a moment by a temple, silently criticizing a small group of men with a drum and cables who were violently reciting a chant. How how undevotionally they use the Lord divine name in mechanical receptions. I reflected. Suddenly I was astonished to see Master Mahashias rapidly approaching me. Sir, how come you there? Here, the son, ignoring my question, answered my thought. Isn't it true, little sir, that the bewold's name sounds sweet from at lips, ignorant or wise? He passed his arm around me efficiently. I found myself carried on his magic carpet to the ma- to the Marisfuel precincts. Would you like to see some bioscopes? These questions, one afternoon from the reclusive Master Mahasias, was my Stephen to me. The terms was then used in India to signify motion pictures. I agreed, glad to be in his company in any circumstances. A brick walk brought us to the garden fronting Calcutta University. My companion indicated a bench near the Goldigdi or pond. Let us sit here a few minutes. My master asked me to meditate whenever I saw an expanse of water. Here is a placidity. Reminds us of the vast calmness of God. As well, things can be reflected in water, so the whole universal is marveled in the lake of the conscience mind. So my Gurudev often said, soon we entered a university hall where a lecture was in progress. It proved uh, abysmally dull, thought varied occasionally by learned slide illustrations, equally uninteresting. So this is the kind of bioscope the master wanted me to see. My thought was impatient, yet I would not hurt the Sant by revealing boredom in my face, but he leaned toward me confidentially. I see, little sir, that you don't like this bioscope. I have mentioned to Divine Mother. She is in full sympathy with us both. She tells me that the electric lights will now go out and want to be relit until we have a chance to leave the room. As his whispered ended, the hell was plunged into darkness. The professors, whose straightened voice had been stilled for a moment in astonishment, said the electric system of his hall appearances to be defective. By this time, Master Masayash and I were already across the threshold, glancing back from the corridor. I saw that the hall was again illuminated. Little sir, you were disappointed in that bioscope, but I think you will like a different one. The Sant and I were standing on the sidewalk in front of the university building. He gently slapped my chest over the heart. A transforming silence ensued, just as the modern talkies become ineligible motion picture when his sound appreciated and appreciated goes out of order. So, the diving hand by some strange miracle satisfied the earthly bustles, um, pedestrians as well as the passing trolleys, cars, automobiles, uh, bullock carts, and iron-wheeled Hankley carriage were all in noiseless transit. As through passing an omnipresent eye, I beheld the scene that were behind me and to each side as easily as those in front. The whole separate table of actively in that small sections of Calcutta passed before me without a sound, like a glow of fire dimly since beneath a thin coat of ashes, a mellow luminescence to permanent a panoramic view. My own body seemed uh, my own body seemed nothing more than the one of the many shadows. Thought it was a motionless, while the others filtered multi multitude and fro. Several boys, friend of mine, approached and passed on. Thought they had looked directly at me. It was without recognition. The unique pantomime brought me an inexpressible ecstasy. I drank deep with from some blissful fount. Suddenly, my chest received another soft blow from Master Mahasias. The panoramium of the world bursted upon my unwilling ears. I struggled, as thought harshly, awakeness from a gossamer dream. The transcendental wine was removed beyond my reach. Little sir, I see you found the second bioscope to your liking. The sun was smiling. I started to kneel in gratitude on the ground before him. You cannot do to me now, he said. You know, God is in your temple also. I won't let divine mother touch my feet through your hands. If anyone observed the unpretentious master and me as we slowly walked away from the crowded pavement, the onlooker surly suspected us of intoxications. I felt that the failing shades of evening were sympathetically drunk with God, trying with poor words to do justify to do justice to his dignity. I wonder if Master Mahasayash and other among the sant was path crossed mine. Know that years later, in a western land, I would be writing about their lives as divine devotees. Their Therefore, therefore knowledge, therefore knowledge would not surprise me, nor, I hope, my readers who have come thus far with me. Sons of all religions have attained God realization, thought the simple concept of the cosmic world, because the absolute is nirguna, with the nirgun without qualities and and any and Anitia, inconceivable human thought that human thought and yearning that have ever personalized it as the universal mother. A combination of personal theism as the philosophy of the absolute in is an ancient achievement of Hindu thought expounded in the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita. These recognitions of opposites satisfy hard and head bhakti and janana are essentially one. Prapapti, taking refuge in God, and sharanagati, feeling oneself on the divine combinations are really path of the highest knowledge. The humility of Master Mahasayash and of all other sants spring from a recognition of their total dependence on the Lord as the sole life and judge, because the very nature of God is bliss. The man in attunement with him experiences a native boundless joy, the first of the patience of the soul, and the will is joy. Devotees of all the ages, appreciating the mother in a childlike spirit, testify that they find her ever at play with them in Master Mahasiya's life. The manifestations of divine plane occurrent on occasions important and unimportant. In God's eyes, nothing is larger or small. Where it not for His perfect nightly in constituting the tiny atom, could the skies were the proud structure of Vega, articulates destinations of important and unimportant are surely unknown to the Lord, lest for want of a pin the cosmos collapse. I meet my master Sri Yukteswar. Faith in God can produce any miracle expert, one passing an examination without study. Distastefully, I closed the inspirational book I had picked up in an ideal moment. The writer's exceptions shows his completed lack of faith. I thought, poor Jeep, he has great respect for the midnight oil. My promise to father and had been that I would complete my high school studies. I cannot pretend to diligence the passing. The passing months found me less frequently in the classroom than in scheduled sports along the Calcutta bathing gust. The adjoining cemetery grounds, especially gruesome, gruesome at night, are considered highly attractive by the yogi. By the yogi, uh, he who only he who would find the deathless essence must uh, not be dismayed by a few undoubted schools. Human equancy becomes clear in the gloomy abode of miscellaneous bones. My midnight wiggles were thus of a different nature from the scholars. The week of final examinations at the Hindu high school was fast approaching. This interrogating period, like the spiritualers' hunts, inspires a well-known terror. I was my mind was never thoughtless at peace, breathing the goals. I was exhuming knowledge not found in lecture halls, but I lacked the art of Swami Paramananda, who easily operated in two places at one time. My reasoning and was that the Lord would notice my dilemma and would extricate me from it. The devotees irrationally spring from thousands inexplicable demonstrations of gods instantly in trouble. Hello Muktananda. Hello Muktanand. I catch hardly a glimpse of your these days. A classmate accosted me one afternoon on Garpar Road. Hello Nandu. My invisibility at school seems to have placed me there in decidedly awkward positions. I I unbounded myself under his friendly gaze. Nantu, who was a brilliant student, laughed heartily. My predicament was not without a comic aspect. You are you are utterly utterly unprepared for the finals, he said. I suppose it is up to me to help you. The simple words conveyed divine promise to my ears with electricity. I visited my friend's home. He kindly outlined the solution to wireless problems he considered likely to beset instructor. The instructor. These questions are the build that will catch many trusting boys in the examination app, an examination trap. Remember my answer, and you will escape without injury. The night was far gone when I departed, bursting with unseasoned eruditions. I devotedly prayed it would remain for the next few critical days. Nantu had coached me in my various subjects, but under press of time, had forgotten my course in Sanskrit. Frequently, I reminded of God of the oversight. I set out on a walk the next morning, assimilating my new knowledge to the rhythms of swimming footstep. As I took a shortcut through the width of a corner lot, my eyes fell on a few lost printed sheet. Uh, a triumphant Ponzi in my hand, where Sanskrit verses. I sought out a Pandit for aid in my stumbling interpretations. His rich voice filled the after with Engel's honeyed beauty of ancient Tongue. These these explanations sometimes cannot possibly be of aid in your Sanskrit test. The scholar disseminated the Ruscani Kelly. But familiarity with that particular poem enabled me on the following day to pass the Sanskrit examination. Throughout the discreet help Nantu had given, I also attained the minimum grade for success in all my other subjects. Father was pleased that I had kept my word and concluded my secondary school course. My gratitude sped to the Lord, whose sole guidance I perceived in my visit to Nantu's home and in my walk by the unhabitual route of the debris-filled lot. Playfully, he had given a due expression of his timely design for my misuse. I came across I came across the discarded book whose another had denied God precedence in the examination hall. I could not restrain a chuckled at my own slight comment. It would only add to these flow confusions if I were to tell him that divine meditation among the Cadburs is a shortcut to a high school diploma. In my new dignity, I was now openly planning to leave home. Together was a young friend, Jitendra Mazumdar. I decided to join Banaras Hermitage Sri Bharat Dharma Mahamandal and receive its spiritual discipline. Desolation fell over me one day at the thought of separations from my family. Since mother's death, my affections had grown specially tender of my two younger brothers, Sananda and Vishnu. And more Thambu. My youngest sister, I rushed to my retreat, the little retreat, the little the little attic that had witnessed so many scenes in my turbulent sadhana. After a 2 hour flood of tears, I fled singularly transformed as by some alchemical cleanser. All attachment disappeared. My resolution to seek God as the friend of the friends become ad infinitum time. I make one last pela. Father was distracted as I stood before him for his blessing. Do not forsake me and your grieving brothers and sisters. Revered Father, how can I tell my love for you? But even greater is my love for the Heavenly Father who has given me the gift for a perfect Father on earth. Let me go, that that I someday return with a more diamantly understanding, with a reluctant parental consent. I set out to join Jitendra already in Banaras at the ashram. On my arrival, the younger head Swami Dayanand greeted me cordially. Tall and thin, of thoughtful mind, he impressed me favorably. His fair face and had a Buddha-like composure. I was pleased that my new home possessed an attic where I managed to spend the dawn and morning hours. The ashram members, knowing little of meditation practice, thought I should employ my whole time in organizational duties. They gave me precise for my afternoon work in their office. Don't try to catch God so soon. Uh, This ridicule from a fellow resident accumulated one of my early deteriorate towards the attic. I went to Dayanda, busy in his small sanctuaries overlooking the Ganges. Swamiji, I don't understand what is required for of me here. I am seeking direct perceptions of God. Without Him, I cannot be satisfied with affiliation or a creed or performance of good works. The orange ribboned ecclesiastic gave me an efficient pet, staging a mock rebuke. He admonished a few neighborly displays. Don't, brother Mukanda, he will learn our way. I politely concealed my doubt. The student left the room, not 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 uh, noticeably bent with their chastisement. Dayanandji had further words for me. Mukanda, I see your father is regularly sending you money. Please return it to him. You require none there. A second injections for your discipline concerned food. Even when you are feel hunger, do not mention it. Whatever famishment gleamed in my eye, I knew not that I was hungry. I knew only too well the invariable hour from the first ashram meal was the 12 noon. I had been accustomed in my own home a large breakfast at 9 o'clock. The 3 hour gap became daily more interminable. Gone were the Calcutta years when I could rebuke the cook for 10 minutes daily. Now I tried to control my appetite. I completed a 24 hours fast. With doubtable jest, I avoided the following midday. Dayanandji's train is late. We are not going to eat until he arrives. Jitendra brought me this devastating news as a gesture of a welcome to the Swami, who had been absent for 2 weeks. Many delicious were in radiance, and an appetizing aroma filled the air, nothing also offering. Where could be solved, where could be swallowed, expert my pride in yesterday's fast. Lord hastened the train, he heavenly provider, I thought could hardly have been included in the introductions with which Dayanandji had silenced me. Divine attention was elsewhere, however, the plodding converted the hours. Darkness was descending as our leader entered the door. My greeting was one of sheer joy. Sheer joy. Dayanandji will bathe and meditate before we can serve food. Jitendra appreciated me again as a bird of ill omen. I was in a near Kolpas. My young stomach new to deprivations. Deprivation protested with a galloping vigor. Pictures I had seen of famine victims passed worth like before me. The next Banaras death from starvations is due at once in this hermitage. I thought Im- im- impending doom was averted at 9 o'clock. Uh, Ambrosius Simmons. In memory, that evening meal is vivid as one of life's perfect hour. Intense absorptions had not prevented me from observing that Dayanandji ate abstemiously. He was appreciably above my gross pleasures. Swamiji, weren't you hungry? Happily surfeited, I was alone with the leader in his study. Oh, yes, he said. I spent the last 4 days without food or drink. I never eat or drink. Filled with the, the heterogeneous vibrations of worldly people, strictly I observed the Sanskrit rules for monks of my particular order. Certain problems of our organizational work lie on my mind. Tonight at home, I negotiated my dinner. What's the hurry? Tomorrow, I will make it a point to have a proper meal. He laughed merely. Shame spared within me like a suffocation. But the past day of my tutor was not easily forgotten. I ventured a further remark. Swamiji, I am puzzled about following your instruction. Suppose I never ask for food and nobody gives me any. I should starve to death. Die then. This alarming consuel spilt the air. Die if you are a most Mukunda. Never believe that you lived by the power of food and not by the power of God. He who has created every form of nourishment, he who has bestowed appetite will inevitably see that he is devoted in maintained. Do not imagine that rice sustained you, not that money or men support you. Could they add if the Lord withdraws your life breath? They are his instrument merely. Is it by any skill of yours that good digests in your stomach? Use the sword of your discriminations. Mukanda cut through the chains of agency and perceives the single cues. I found his incidents words entering some deep marrow. Uh, gone was gone was an age-old delusions by which bodily imperative out with the soul. Then and there, I tasted the spirit's all sufficiency in how many stranger cities. In my later life of ceaseless travel, did occasion arise to prove the cerebrility of this lesson in a Banaras hermitage. The salt residue which had accompanied me from Kolkata was the Sadhu's silver amulet bequeathed to me by mother, guardianty it for years. I knew. I now had it carefully hidden in my ashram room to renew my joy in the talismanic testimony. One morning I opened the locked box, the sealed conveying untouched low. The amulet was gone. Uh, Mournfully, I tore open the envelope and made unmistakably sure it had vanished. In accordance with the sadhu's predictions, into the either whence he had submuted it. My relationship with Dayananda's followers grew steadily worse. The household was alienated, hurt by determined aloofness. My strict otherness to meditation, to the very ideal for which I had left home, and all worldly ambitions called for a shadowed criticism from all sides. Turned by spiritual anguish, I entered that attic one down, resolved to pray until an answer was vouchsafed. Merciful Mother of the Universe, teach me the self-thought vision or thought a guru sent by thee. The passing hours founded my sobbing prayers without response. Suddenly, I felt lifted as thought boldly to a spear uncircumscribed. The master comped today. I divined a womanly voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The master comes today. The supernal experiences was stated by a shout from a defined local. A young priest nicknamed Habu was calling me from the downstream kitchen. Mukanda, enough of meditation. You are needed for an errand. Another day, I might have replied impatiently. Now I wiped my tears-long face and meekly obeyed the Simeonses. Together, Habu and I set out for a distant marketplace in the Bengali section of Banaras. The ungentle Indian sun was not yet at zenith as we made our purchase in the bazaars. We pushed over. We thought the colorful medley of housewives, guides, precepts, and simply clad windows, dignified Brahmin, Brahmins, dignified Brahmins, and abducators, holy bulls. As Habu and I moved on, I turned my head to survey at narrow, inconspicuous land. A jurist-like man in the ochre robes of a Swami stood motionless at the end of the lane. Instantly and anciently familiar he seemed. For a trace my gaze fed hungrily. The doubt assailed me. You are confusing this wandering monk with someone known you to. I thought a dreamer walk on. After 10 minutes, I felt heavy numbness in my feet, as thought turned to stone. They were unable to cry. Me, father, laboriously, I turned around. My feet regained normality. I faced the opposite direction. Again, the curious weight appreciated me. The sun is magnificently drawing me to him. With this thought, I heaped my parcels into this arm of Habu. He had been observing my heretical footwork with amazement and now burst into laughter. What, Alice, you? Are you crazy? Uh, My tumultuous emotions prevent any retort. I spent silently away. Retracting my step as thought wing should, I reached the narrowed lane. My quick glance revealed the quiet figure, straightly gazing in my direction. A few eager steps, and I was at his feet. Gurudeva, this divine face was the ones I had seen in a thousand's vision. Their halcyon eyes in a lemonian head with pointed beard and following locks had often peered through the gloom of my nocturnal revels, holding a promise I had not fully understood. Oh, my own, you have come to me. My guru uttered the words again and again in Bengali, his voice, uh, his voice tremulous with joy. How many years I have waited for you. Thank you.